This is my first flight at Algodonales. I went down for a week's paragliding and I'm set up and my wall is built into the wind. Looks like the guy on the left, the center of my glider, is Nick, who runs paraglidingguides.com. Highly recommend him. Pops up, skew, and I slide and just miss some of the bushes as I was taking off. I think if I didn't slide and lose my footing on the ground, I should have been okay with that one. Either way, a bit rough, but I'm up. So I found myself a thermal and got myself a little bit of height, and as I come out of this turn I spot some vultures flying in the background. And so I put some speed bar on to go and say hi. These are the Eurasian griffon vultures, and they are huge. Their wingspan is about 2.8 meters, so roughly about 3 meters wide.
Oh my god!
And so you can see them picking up a thermal. And
yeah, boys!
I decided to join them.
Oh, look at this!
You can imagine that flapping 3 meter long wings be quite a lot of work. So what they do is they get themselves a thermal and they use that to fly high up into the sky. Thermals are kind of interesting as well because, I mean, I've been flying along and I've been able to smell like burning grass or cow shit at like 600 meters above the ground. So any kind of smell is taken from the ground and lifted up into the sky by thermals, rising columns of warm air. So as they fly, they could pick up the smell of any kind of dead animal as they as they fly over it, which would then help them to locate and feed.
Sorry, I'm in your thermal. Oh my god, this is so good.
So this is me I've pushed out into the valley a bit further than I probably should have. I was finding it a bit difficult to work out where the wind was coming from. I mean, you do turns in the glider and you have a look at your wind speed, or the ground speed at least, to be able to tell which direction the wind's coming from. But I have found that there's a wind direction arrow that you can install on your skydrop. So I tried to mess with that, but I don't know if I had that mixed up with the waypoint guide, because I was flying on one occasion and I couldn't really see that it was changing. Sometimes I can find it a bit difficult to have a look at my instrument and fly the glider at the same time and avoid vultures and people. And that's Nick telling me that he's going down to the landing field. This little section here is just to show you the sunset. The sun was, setting, so thermals weren't that active anymore. and considering I lost a fair amount of height, I wasn't able to fly the ridge. I saw other paragliders flying the ridge, so that was definitely possible to do, but I wasn't 100% certain on which direction the wind was coming, because I had it kind of off center from the ridge, or off the ridge itself. So coming into land here, the landing field is just by my feet, or where my feet were, so my foot is just going to come across it there. It's a very small landing field. I really don't like it. The idea was to do S's over those trees, but the other paraglider on the left, top left by my arm, he seemed to be doing circles, so I kind of joined him. So he was circling the landing field, and I decided to join his landing pattern, otherwise I'd be flying across him, if you know what I mean. There is a power line on the left hand side of that landing field, just on the left of the road. It's very hard to see it from the air, which is one of the reasons I don't like this landing field, because you're landing in fairly close proximity to power lines. You've got trees. You know, if the wind is coming in the direction that down the road basically, then those trees at the far end might cause some rotor. So we've synchronized into like a circling landing pattern, I'd say. That was the glider that I'm looking at on the left behind me, I guess. There he is. Even though I did a couple of turns high up to see where the wind was coming from, wind on landing was nil. There was no wind, which can make for quite a rough landing, as you'll see in a second.